Hello and welcome. My name is Juan Carlos Gamarra. I'm the ambassador of Peru to the United Kingdom. And today we are continuing with our series on the bicentennial dialogues that have been produced by the Embassy of Peru in collaboration with Latin TV UK. This time, I'm glad to introduce to you the Peruvian researcher and good friend, Dr. Pedro Favaron, who will talk about Peru's indigenous languages to you. Dr. Favaron is a writer, poet, academic researcher, social and audiovisual communicator. He has specialized in the development of an intercultural philosophical reflection based on the ancestral knowledge of the indigenous peoples of the American continent, generating a transversal dialogue between indigenous thoughts and modern science. Pedro holds a PhD in literature and modern languages from the University of Montreal in Canada and a master's degree in communication and culture from the University of Buenos Aires. He has also published several books of poetry, narrative, and cultural research in Argentina, Peru, Chile, and Mexico, as well as academic articles in indexed journals. He directed the experimental medium-length film Meraya, which has been part of the official selection of international film festivals in Italy, Prague, Chile, and the United States. His work in the research and divulgation of the ancestral knowledge of the Amazonian peoples has been recognized and honored by the Rotary Club of Pucallpa City. Thanks to his marriage to Chonon Bencho, an artist of the Shipibo Conibo indigenous people, he is a member of a family of indigenous sages who have practiced ancestral medicine for many generations. Now, Pedro and his wife live in Yarinacocha, in the Ucayali region of the Peruvian Amazon. Thank you, Pedro, for being with us today once again, and please start your fascinating lecture.
Hi, Mr. Ambassador. I'm very happy for being able to talk with you again. It's always a pleasure to do so. And I'm also glad and grateful for having the opportunity of being part of this series of small interviews, of short interviews, talking about Peruvian culture. And in this opportunity, I will talk to you, as you had already anticipated, about the native languages of Peru, the Peruvian native languages. We have in Peru something like 47 native languages. I have studied two of them, especially. One is Quechua language, that is the most talked native language in South America. Is a language with a huge variety that is talked from South Colombia to the north of Argentina. You can find dialectal varieties of Quechua language that is also called Runasimi, the language of the people. And it's very interesting because a same word can be said in very different ways. It depends in the area where people are talking it. For example, in Cusco, people say Sonjo is our heart, Sonjo. But in the Amazon rainforest, in the San Martin region, where the Lamas nation talk also Quechua, they say Shungu. So it's not Sonjo as in Cusco, it's Shungu. It's the dialectal varieties. For example, in Cusco you say Hamui, come, Hamui. And in San Martin they said Shamui. So you can find this rich variety inside Quechua language, Peruvian Quechua language. And I had also studied Shipibo Conibo language because, as you had already said, my wife is from the Shipibo Conibo nation. I live in the ancestral territory of the Shipibo Conibo population. And I had also studied some concepts in other language, like in Awahun, for example, but not so deep as Shipibo Konibo that I live. I live my whole day in a Shipibo Konibo environment. And my approach is not a linguistic approach. I am not a linguist. My specialization is not linguistics. My approach is much more poetical and philosophical. And so I rescue from the German philosopher Martin Heidegger the concept that the language is the house, the home of the self, of our inner being. The technical language is not so good, the scientific language is not so good to talking about ourselves. For talking about ourselves and our relation with nature, our relation with life, the poetical language is much more appropriate. So what I had find is that um, most of native language uh, are very flexible and are very poetical in their approach to nature and to the understanding of life. Each language carries um, uh, all the philosophical reflections of the people that had talked the language from the past. In the case of the Shipibo Konibo people, I had find a very special relationship between the language and the plants. In the Shipibo Konibo traditional medicine, the elders, the old sage, used to tell that each plant have an spiritual owner, and that plants participate from consciousness, from affection, that plants have memory, and that plants participate in language. Because it's possible for the onayas, the traditional healers, to talk with the plants and talk with the spirits of the plants, to ask them for knowledge and to ask them for help to to heal the patients. So it's another conception of language. Um, First of all, in the traditional narrative of all the Amazon rainforest, um, is usually we hear that in the past, when the world was new, when the world was in his process of formation, um, every beings, all the living beings, humans are not and not humans, share a primordial condition. We were all humans. The sun was human, the moon was a human, the trees were human, the animals were humans, the birds were humans. And we all share a same language. But because of different transgressions that have been made in the past, some beings lost their humanity and they became birds, they became plants. But they still remember a little bit of this primordial language. And when we dream, we can talk with plants and we can talk with animals because in the past we shared this primordial condition. So in the dreams, we become able to understand and to recover the primordial dialogue because all nature um, is related and we have a common past. And in this common past and this shared language um, is still present in the medicinal chantings of the Onayas. When an Onaya sings, he can call the spirit of the plant and share that energy, healing energy that comes from the plant with the patient. For example, the tree that we call the mestizos in the Amazon rainforest, we call ayauma. In Shipibo Konibo is called Inuashatan. So the healer can sing, for example, Inuashatan ibomberaya, Inuashatan hunibo, Inuashatan tebo. So he's calling in that way the owner, the spiritual owner of the plant. And with his voice, with his chanting, he is able to heal the disease of his patient. So this is really an indigenous Amazonic linguistic theory because it expresses that our world, when it's connected with the spirit world, have the strength enough to heal and transform even our body, transform the matter, no? The material world with the vibration of the voice. So this is what I want to share with you today, and I hope that this gives at least a little idea in this short time that we have that can show the richness, the philosophical deepness that carry each indigenous native language. So thank you very much.
Pedro, thank you very much for sharing with us your knowledge on indigenous languages in Peru. It's a very valuable contribution to this effort the Embassy of Peru is making of widening the scope of knowledge on Peru in the UK during this bicentennial year. So thank you once again for your help.